ministers to us, instructs us, leads us, and guides us. Pray that we may honor you and glorify you this evening, Father. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother. I thought singing, so page 503. $503. I've done it now. I had a pick and I just lost it.
Chad, I know he was a Baptist minister today on the radio, and he was talking about how church had added so many activities other than the sermon and preaching the gospel. He said his job was to stand in the pulpit and preach the gospel, and he was telling on the radio, he said, devil doesn't care if you go to church. He just gets mad if you get anything out of it.
That's right. Amen. Well, apparently he didn't want me to play. Devil don't want me to do that either. He don't like it when I glorify Jesus. I had a pick just a couple minutes ago and I didn't eat it.
Is it in your songbook?
Here's a toothpick.
What do you want me to do? No, wait a minute. What do you want me to do with a toothpick?
Always have.
Look in the songbook. I've never done this before.
Well, yeah, I think it's,
I do, but it won't come out the same.
Check your nose.
well, might be better, who knows?
Did you drop it on the way to turn the camera on?
I have no idea.
It's right there.
You see it?
At the last place you put it.
Oh, gosh.
Or if it just have to go without it, there it is. Now, how did it get there?
It's right there.
The devil made it jump over there.
Weird. Okay, 503 now. I think I'm ready. What a wonderful change in my life has been wrought since Jesus came into my heart. I have light in my soul for which long I had sought since Jesus came into my heart. Since Jesus came into my heart. Since Jesus came into my heart. Floods of joy o'er my soul like the sea billows roll. Since Jesus came into my heart, I have ceased from my wandering and going astray. Since Jesus came into my heart, and my sins, which were many, are all washed away. Since Jesus came into my heart, since Jesus came into my heart, since Jesus came into my heart, floods of joy for my soul, like the sea billows roll. Since Jesus came into my heart, I shall go there to dwell in that city I know. Since Jesus came into my heart, and I'm happy, so happy as onward I go. Since Jesus came into my heart, since Jesus came into my heart, since Jesus came into my heart, floods of joy for my soul like the sea billows roll. Since Jesus came into my heart. Amen. Turn to page 504. Without him I could do nothing. Without him I'd surely fail. Without Oh, what a wonderful, wonderful day, day I will never forget. After I'd wandered in darkness away, Jesus my Savior I met. Oh, what a tender, compassionate friend, He met the need of my heart. Shadows dispelling with joy I am telling, He made all the darkness depart. Heaven came down and glory filled my soul. When at the cross the Savior made me whole, made me whole. My sins were washed away, and my night was turned to day. Heaven came down and glory filled my soul, filled my soul. Born of the Spirit with light from above, into God's family divine. Justified fully through Calvary's love, oh, what a standing is mine. And the transaction so quickly was made, when as a sinner I came. Took up the offer of grace He did proffer, He saved me, oh, praise His good name. Heaven came down and glory filled my soul, filled my soul. When at the cross the Savior made me whole, made me whole. My sins were washed away, and my night was turned to day. Heaven came down and glory filled my soul, filled my soul. Now I've a hope that will surely endure after the passing of time. I have a future in heaven for sure, there in those mansions sublime. And it's because of that wonderful day, when at the cross I believe. Riches eternal and blessings supernal from His precious hand I receive. Heaven came down and glory filled my soul, filled my soul. When at the cross the Savior made me whole, made me whole. My sins were washed away, and my night was turned to day. Heaven came down and glory filled my soul, filled my soul. Amen. That was good. Well, I love it when I can hear y'all over me. That means you're doing it right.
Well, we're just trying to drown you out.
That's what I hope you'll do. Good deal. Well, that was so good, I think we'll do one more. 508. What?
I just shut the book.
Well, you don't have to say that. What a horrible tragedy.
Well, 508 was only one page over from the 5 minutes.
Well, we don't have to do another one. I just want to sing. Amen. Love lifted me.
Back to it.
I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, very deeply stained within, sinking to rise no more. But the Master of the sea heard my despairing cry. From the waters lifted me, now saved am I. Love lifted me, love lifted me. When nothing else could help, love lifted me, love lifted me, love lifted me. When nothing else could help, love lifted me. and so true, merits my soul's best song. Faithful, loving service to Him belongs. Love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me, love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Souls in danger, look above. Jesus completely saves. He will lift you by His love out of the angry waves. He's the master of the sea, billows His will obey. He, your Savior, wants to keep you safe today. Love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me, love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Now you can close your book.
Okay, week after next, I expect to hear special music from you.
I'm working on it.
That song you got the other night.
I know. I'm thinking on it. I enjoyed that. Really did. I just don't know if you would enjoy hearing me sing.
We won't compare.
Well, you know, I love to sing, but I used to be good at it. And the older I get, the less good at it I am. It's just something, my voice just isn't as good as it used to be. But that's okay. I wasn't called to be a singer. I was called a priest. So it'd be all right if I lose that altogether. I just like to sing. I love to glorify God. Nobody else deserves it. You know, I got to say this. I spent a lot of wasted years, and this is just for your own visual, I guess. This ain't in here anywhere. I just decided to add it. But I wasted a lot of years singing for all the wrong reasons. I remember when I was in high school, and I really did have a good voice. I'd get out there on the track during PE, and I'd just walk around that track singing out loud my favorite country tunes, because I was showing off. The cheerleaders were practicing out there. I'm serious, right? Y'all remember the track, 4 times around is a mile? Well, the cheerleaders practiced right there, and so I made it a point to just walk around that track and sing. I just wanted to impress all the females. I wanted them to hear how good my voice was. I wanted them to think I was something. I wasted a lot of years singing for all the wrong people in all the wrong places. And now I just want to glorify Jesus. That's all I care to sing about anymore. Ain't much else worth fitting and sing about, but in my mind. But anyhow. All right, well, we are in the book of Judges. I just wanted to see what would happen. Judges chapter 2, verse 1. Somebody can't hear me back there. I said Judges chapter 2, verse 1. All right. I did it on purpose, Mark. I'm not lost. Judges chapter 2, verse 1. Say that again?
What happened to chapter 1?
Well, we're going to go backwards. Judges chapter 2, verse 1. The Bible says, "And an angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochim, and said, I made you to go up out of Egypt, and I have brought you unto the land which I swear unto your fathers. And I said, I will never break my covenant with you. And you shall make no league with the inhabitants of this land. You shall throw down their altars. But you've not obeyed my voice. Why have you done this? Wherefore I also said, I will not drive them out from before you, but they shall be as thorns in your sides, and their gods shall be a snare unto you. And it came to pass, when the angel of the Lord spake these words unto all the children of Israel, that the people lifted up their voice and wept, and they called the name of that place Bochim, and they sacrificed there unto the Lord." Let us pray. Father in heaven, thank you for your word. Thank you for your love. Thank you for being our God. Thank you, Lord, for always carrying us through the difficult times and bringing us through them, Lord. You didn't promise to deliver us out of anything, Lord, but you've always been faithful to bring us through it. And I thank you for that. I ask you to meet with us tonight, Lord. Let us feel your presence in this place. Help us, Lord, as we study your word together. Help us to hear your word and apply it to our lives in a way that's well-pleasing to you. Help me to teach, Lord. Help us all to learn. I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, the reason we did that way, because if you read Judges chapter 1, what? Say it out loud. Don't make faces at me. I don't like that. What did I do?
Nothing. It's a recap. Go ahead.
You'd do it differently, I guess, if you were here. Okay, that's fine. When it's your turn to preach, you can do it how you want to do it. Listen, I did it that way on purpose because if you just read Judges chapter 1, you're going to see some failures. And they're not explained right away. If you just read chapter 1, and we're going to. If you just read chapter 1, you've got to be thinking Judges 1:19 makes it sound like the tribe of Judah can't get anything done. And you have to ask the question, why? Why are they having opposition? Why are they finding failure in their work for the Lord? Well, you have to understand, it's not because God is slack concerning His promises. It's because the people of God do not always honor what God said to do. So we started in Judges 2, verse 1 through 5, so I could show you what the angel of the Lord had to say about what they were doing wrong, so that when you read chapter 1, you would have an explanation. It's called a disclaimer. I wanted to show you the disclaimer. Y'all know what a disclaimer is. Every time they announce a medicine on TV, somebody will come on talking really, really fast, reading at the end of all the things that will cause you, side effects and whatnot. Y'all know what a disclaimer is. This medicine may heal you and it may not, but it's liable to kill you with all these little, they always read that so fast, and the cure is worse than the disease in most cases. Well, I wanted to give you the disclaimer, and now we're going to back up. Judges 1:1. But I got your attention. The Bible says, now after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, who shall go up for us against the Canaanites first to fight against them? See, everybody was solid on what to do as long as Joshua was alive. But when Joshua dies, now they seem lost. And I don't really understand this. Now it's good. It's always good to ask the Lord for direction. That's great. I'm glad they're willing to do that. But He had given them the law. He had given them the leadership they needed through Moses and then Joshua. He had elected the Levites to be the priests, and He had given them the law. All you've got to do to answer this question, Lord, what do? Do what I've told you to do. And I've actually preached on this before. When a Christian comes to a point in their walk where they don't know what to do, and it will happen. It will happen. As you're walking with the Lord, you'll run into things sometimes and you won't know how to handle it. You'll come to a decision and you're like, I don't know what to do. I've had this happen to me. When I came to a point where I was pastor at Hamilton Faith Baptist Church, and there was an opportunity here at Delhi, I had to make a decision. What do? Do I stay there or come down here? Well, most of the time, we lean too heavily on what we want to do and not heavily enough on what God wants us to do. But what I've always believed is when you come to a point where you don't know what to do what you know how to do. Do what the Bible says. Follow the Lord. And if you'll just wait on Him, He will guide you. He will direct you. And I've never had a failure when I did it that way. When I run into failure, it's because I jump out ahead of God and try to do things without seeking Him out. When I try to do things without looking into what His Word says or what He might want me to do. I had a friend, and I've told this before, but I had a friend who called me one time. And he's single, and he's trying to date somebody, and he had given up secular music. He only listened to gospel music. Good Christian man. Good guy. He had made a lot of changes in his life. He quit drinking, he quit smoking, he was going to church. He was trying to live for the Lord, but he was single. And he asked the girl out, and he wanted to go out with her. Well, she wanted to go out with him, but she wanted to go to this concert, some secular band. And so he called me, he said, Chad, what do I do? He said, I really want to take this girl out. I don't really want to go to this concert. What do you think God would tell me to do? And I said, don't ask me that because I'll tell you. You know what the Lord would want you to do. You just may not want to hear me tell you what the Lord would want you to do. I don't think He would ever tell anybody to go somewhere where they're serving alcohol and acting like the devil and not singing praises to Him. Now, is it forgivable? Sure. If you want to go to a concert, that's between you and God. But I couldn't advise him to do that Because if you're asking me what the Bible says do, it's pretty obvious God don't want you to go to places like that. So I had to give him that unfortunate news, and he made his own decisions. But a lot of times people will ask a question and they want to invoke God in it, as long as it goes the way they want it to go. But if the Lord's not okay with it, well, then they don't want to ask. You know, let me put it another way. If you ever wanted to ask your parents for permission for something, you knew before you asked, they're going to say no. Mom, Dad, can I use the car Friday night to take this girl out? And you know good and well they're going to say, well, your grades are down. Or you didn't do your chores. Or you haven't owned up to your end of it. So, I mean, there's times when you ask for things, you know good and well what the answer is. You know what's going to be said. But you ask anyway. I find this interesting that after the death of Joshua, the children of Israel asking the Lord, who shall go up for us against the Canaanites first to fight against them? Let me just tell you, God had already given them the land. He had already promised them victory. But you've got to surrender to Him and do things His way. And that was the problem. They're asking what to do, but they should have known by now. They've had the law, they've had good leaders, they've got the priests. You should know what to do. Had God not already answered this? Did we not look at this in all of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books? Did we not look at what God wanted them to do is to follow Him and get rid of idolatry, honor Him and only Him? He gave them the law, He gave them the direction, He gave them the land, He did everything He said He would do. They know what to do. Let me put it another way. Everything a Christian needs to serve God is in this book. So most of the time when people are asking questions that they don't know the answer to, they can get the answers in here. But they may not like what this has to say, so they look elsewhere for their answers. And I believe this is what's going on here. Verse 2. The Lord said, Judah shall go up. Behold, I have delivered the land into his hand. And Judah said unto Simeon his brother, come up with me into my lot, that we may fight against the Canaanites, and I likewise will go with thee into thy lot. So Simeon went with him. Now, I don't have a problem with brothers working together. But if the Lord's giving you the land, why do you need to team up with Simeon to acquire it? Why would Simeon need Judah to help him to acquire his land? Is it not God who gives these things? It's okay to have help, but I don't read anywhere that God told them to do it this way.
Lack of faith.
Lack of faith and a weakness that men have sometimes. They're looking at a battle ahead, and they're thinking, there's no way I can win this battle, Lord. There's no way. It's too overwhelming. I can't continue. And the truth is, you're right. You can't continue. You can't win if you're trusting you. Let me say it like this. When I was young, I wanted to bench press 300 pounds. It was just a goal that I had. This one particular girl that I went to school with, that I had a crush on, had let it be known that she liked the men who were, you know, built and working out. And I was already on the football team. We were already on the workout program. So I started hitting the weights hard. I thought I was going to get this little body, you know, pumped up. You know, I was trying to. I'll have you know I got all the way to 250 before I figured out I'm not ever going to bench press 300 pounds. It's not going to happen with this little frame. But I got further than I thought I would. I was bench pressing 250 pounds. But I wanted to build myself up to think that I would be strong and I'd be able to do all of these things. But you know what? I've known people in excellent health die mysteriously from an aneurysm or something. And then I've met people who didn't take good care of themselves live into their hundreds. So at the end of the day, how much control do we really have over any of this? I don't have the strength to make my heart continue to pump. If the Lord wills it, it can stop right now and I'll fall out, right? I hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, don't nobody grieve for me. I'll be with Him and be okay. But my lungs pump air. My heart pumps blood. And God does it. I don't have any control over that. I do the best I can to take care of the body He gave me, but at the end of the day, it's in His hands. So it is sometimes a crutch to lean on things as human beings. We say, well, thank God I got good insurance. Thank God I got a good doctor. Thank God I take good care of myself. Thank God I eat right. And all of those are good things. But that's not where I put my faith. And we see this here. As soon as Joshua's no longer with them, they've been doing well. As soon as Joshua's no longer with them, they have doubts about how to proceed. And then after the Lord tells them what to do, then they start forming alliances because they don't fully trust God. And before you judge them, we do the same thing. We do the same thing. Verse 4, Judah went up, and the Lord delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hand, and they slew of them in Bezek 10,000 men. And they found Adon-Bezek in Bezek, and they fought against them, and they slew the Canaanites with the Perizzites. But Adoni-Bezek fled, and they pursued after him and caught him and cut off his hands and his great toes. For them that don't know, they got rid of the big toe, and according to this, they cut off his thumbs. So his thumbs and his big toe. Doesn't sound like fun, does it? First time I read that, I thought, why in the world would you do this? Well, it's going to tell you. It's going to explain. So we'll continue. Verse 7, and Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings, that means 70 kings, having their thumbs and their great toes cut off, gathered their meat under my table, as I have done, so God hath requited me. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and there he died. In other words, this man had been doing that to other people. He had taken 70 different kings, leaders in Canaanite land, when it was still Canaan, and he had cut off their thumbs and big toes. And so now he loses his thumbs and big toes because of what he had done. The lesson in that is you reap what you sow. Things that we do in this life, we're gonna answer for. There were some folks who had some trouble with that, and I wished I had the opportunity to discuss it with them. But you remember when Dr. Shepard was here, he preached on it. And there were some folks who struggled with what he said, but what he said was absolutely correct. This body has to die. It has to be punished for sin. When we get saved, nowhere in our salvation is this body promised to make it. Y'all knew that, right? Is it appointed unto man once to die? Paul said that this corruption must put on incorruption. This body don't go. If you were hoping to hold on, if you like your body and you're hoping to hold on to it, I got bad news for you. You're not going to get to keep that one. And that's okay, because the one you're going to get is so much better. But this body is doomed to suffer and die. And the things that we have done to our body, the things that we do in this body, bring about the things that we suffer. If I go say, I knew a guy, his name is Wade Hillcutt. He got drunk one night, walking down the wrong country road, got hit by a car, and he lost his left arm. Now, it was completely avoidable. Don't drink and walk down a dark highway in the middle of the night. You won't get hit by a car and lose your arm. And Wade Hillcutt got saved. He's a Christian. He's a good man. But he didn't magically grow back his arm. He still had to suffer for a bad decision. We're going to do the same thing. This king had been torturing apparently other people and cutting off their thumbs and their toes. And so now he loses his thumbs and his toes. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. I just want you to understand that there's a payday someday. Your sins are forgiven. If you're saved, you're going to heaven. But we still have to live in this body, and we still have to answer for the things that we do. Something David Shepard said that I really appreciated was, if you plant corn, you're going to reap corn. Has anybody ever planted corn and then reaped something else? Anybody? Has that ever happened to anybody? You ever plant corn and then reap wheat? You ever plant corn and then reap milo? You ever plant corn and then reap cottonseed or soybean? It doesn't happen that way. If you plant corn, that's what you sow. If that's what you've sown, that's what you must reap. And what I found interesting about Dr. Shepard is he made a point to explain that even if you change it today, if you changed your life today and started serving God, you start sowing in righteousness, you'll reap in mercy, but you still have to finish reaping what you've already sown. It doesn't magically just change everything. I wish it did, but it doesn't. If you have sown a life, 10 years, let's say 10 years of your life, you've sown in wickedness, and then you get saved, praise God, your soul was washed, and you begin to serve the Lord right after that, which most of us don't. Most of us are on a roller coaster. But even if you did, if you walked closely with the Lord from then on, you would still have to finish sowing or reaping what you've sown before you ever see the benefit in the new crop. Do you understand what I'm telling you? When Dr. Shepard said that, some folks didn't follow that very well. But I mean, it's 100% true. You don't get out of those things. The only thing you can do with what you've sown is reap it. Anyway, I'm not going to re-preach his message. But this guy reaped the reward for his actions. And so he lost his thumbs, he lost his toes, and then he died. Doesn't sound like fun. Verse 8. Now the children of Judah had fought against Jerusalem and had taken it and smitten it with the edge of the sword and set the city on fire. And afterward the children of Judah went down to fight against the Canaanites who dwelt in the mountain and in the south and in the valley. And Judah went against the Canaanites that dwelt in Hebron. Now the name of Hebron before was Kirjath Arba, and they slew Sheshai and Ahiman and Talmai. Now, none of that means anything to you. I want you to understand that as they're driving these people out, they're going to have some success, but they're also going to have some failures. And that's what we're going to look at tonight. The focus of this lesson will be on the successes and the failures and why they occur. So the cities and the names don't mean anything to you necessarily. Just try to get the overarching point. There are 9 tribes listed in this chapter that have successes and failures, and we're going to run through them right quick, okay? Verse 11. From thence he went against the inhabitants of Debir, and the name of Debir before was Kirjath Sepher. And Caleb said, y'all remember Caleb? He was one of the spies that was faithful to God. He's from the tribe of Judah. Caleb said, he that smiteth Kirjath Sepher and taketh it, to him will I give Achsah my daughter to wife. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it. He gave him his daughter to wife. Now, we're going to see Othniel later. He's one of the judges. But we're not going to talk about him tonight. I just want you to make note of that name. We're going to see him, I think, in chapter 3. Verse 14, and it came to pass when she came to him, she moved him to ask of her father a field, and she lighted off from her ass, and Caleb said unto her, what wilt thou? Now there's nothing complicated about this verse. Basically, this man's wife wanted to have this land, and she talked her husband into letting her ask her father for that land. So that's all that's going on here. She goes to her father, she gets off the donkey, and she says she wants his land. He says, what do you want? Verse 15, she said unto him, give me a blessing, for thou hast given me a south land. Give me also springs of water. And Caleb gave her the upper springs and the nether springs. Now, I didn't choose to show this to you on the map, but just for those that don't know, that's an area of Israel that's really dry. So what she's asking is legitimate. She needs water. She needs to have springs, because the southern part of Israel, going toward the Negev and Sinai, there's not a lot of water there. So you remember the same thing happened between Abraham and Lot. You remember? And Abraham said, you pick which land you want. And he looked and saw that the land was good, there was lots of water, and so he took that. But God often takes care of us in places where you wouldn't pick. Right? I can tell you that Delhi wasn't my first choice. See, I was hoping the Lord would send me to the Caribbean on a missionary trip. No, hey, people in the Caribbean need Jesus, right? So I thought my ministry might be right there on the beach. You know, just set up a church. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, who picks Delhi? I want you to know this. When I was praying and surrendering to God in the ministry, I told him I'd go anywhere he sent me. I'd go to China if you wanted me to go to China. I'd go to India if you wanted me to go to India. I said, Lord, you send me where you want me to go, I'll go. Because I had tried it enough my way. I wanted to do it his way. I told him I'd go anywhere he sent me. And isn't it funny, I wound up in Delhi. That's an inside joke. Anyway, hey, the Lord works in mysterious ways. But the Lord can do more for you where He puts you than He can do for where you pick for yourself. Anyway, she wanted this land for the water, and that's fine. It's not really much to that. I just wanted you to understand what it was saying. Verse 16. And the children of the Kenite, Moses' father-in-law, went up out of the city of palm trees with the children of Judah into the wilderness of Judah, which lieth in the south of Arad. And they went and dwelt among the people. Now we're getting, I know some of this, you got to be thinking, why are we reading all this? We're going somewhere, I promise. Verse 17. And Judah went with Simeon his brother. And they slew the Canaanites that inhabited Zephath, and utterly destroyed it. And the name of the city was called Hormah. And also Judah took Gaza. Now I want you to remember that. Y'all know where Gaza is? Yeah. That's Palestinian country today. The land of the Philistines. It still is. Judah took Gaza with the coast, and Ashkelon with the coast, and Ekron with the coast. These are 3 coastal areas of Philistine land that, to be honest with you, were hard to defeat anyway. But when you follow the Lord and the Lord's with you, you can do these things. Also, I want you to know there were giants in this area, and Caleb was not a bit scared of them. The tribe of Judah was not a bit scared of them because they trusted the Lord. But you're going to see here in the next verse a failure. And you're going to ask the question, why did they fail if the Lord was with them? And I'm going to cover that, okay? Watch this carefully. Verse 19. The Lord was with Judah, and he drove out the inhabitants of the mountain, but could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley because they had chariots of iron. I have seen so many people misunderstand this verse, and I want to show it to you, okay? It's not so much the chariots of iron that are the problem here. I mean, they didn't help. But the problem is disobedience. That's why we started in Judges chapter 2. That's why I read you those first 5 verses. Because the angel of the Lord explains to them why they're struggling. See, they would do something really good. And let me say this. Because as a Christian, I think we've all had these days. We've all had days where we're walking with the Lord and He's doing mighty things in us. Have you ever had a day where you just felt like you're on cloud 9? You feel like the Lord is right here and we're working together and good things are happening and He's blessing me and I'm seeing His handiwork in my life. Surely, if you've served God very long, you've had a day like that, right? I'm not the only one that's ever had a day like that. And then there's some days where you just feel like your prayers, they're not even getting through the ceiling. You're like, well, the Lord's just not hearing me. And you know within yourself what the problem is. It's typically something we've done that's messed up the fellowship between us and God. We've messed up that connection. You know, I don't like using cellular examples because the Lord can hear you anytime. But that's what it feels like. When you have a good signal and you're having good communication on your phone, they understand you, you understand them, you can have a great conversation. But you ever have those where it's breaking up and they're not hearing you, you're not hearing them, and the communication's awful. And if you're anything like me, it gets really frustrating. How many of you love to repeat yourself? Right? When someone says, I can't, bless you, are you okay? When someone says, well, you're breaking up, I can't understand anything you're saying, and your first instinct is to repeat what you said, and your second instinct is, I just hang up. They can't hear me, this conversation is pointless, I'll just quit. Well, I want you to understand, when the connection's bad between you and the Lord, the problem is always us. The problem is always the things going on in our life that are causing us to struggle with that communication. The Lord is always faithful. So when we read verse 19 here, and we see that the Lord was with Judah, there was no problem with the Lord. The problem was with Judah. Because the Lord was with him and He drove out the inhabitants of the mountain. Let me say this too. Normally, which would be easier to take? The mountain or the valley? Under normal circumstances. Put yourself in their shoes.
The valley.
You would think the valley would be easier, right? I mean, in any other battle in the world, it'd be easier. In the Highlands of Scotland, that's why they struggled so much when England was trying to defeat the Scots. The reason they struggled is because they had the Highlands to hide in. They had somewhere to go to get away from them. That's why throughout history, the Edomites were such a thorn in Israel's side, because they had Petra, and they had the mountains to go and hide in. It's hard to defeat a mountain people. That's why nobody, did you know Afghanistan's never been defeated by anybody? From Genghis Khan all the way down to Russia, no one's ever defeated Afghanistan. And is it because they're unbeatable? Not really. It's because they've got mountains and caves to hide in. You can't get them. Normally, the mountain's the harder work. The valley's the easier work. Do you notice this is backwards? See, the Lord was with them when they drove out the inhabitants of the mountain. They couldn't drive out the inhabitants of the valley because they had chariots of iron. I would argue it's because they weren't walking with the Lord. They lost the blessing of His fellowship. And it's something we struggle with too. That's why I bring it up. Verse 20. And they gave Hebron unto Caleb, as Moses said, and he expelled thence the 3 sons of Anak. Now, we're not going to cover that tonight. The sons of Anak are the giants. And he expelled most of them. There's a few left. David's going to run into some of their descendants later. But for the moment, just know that a whole bunch of giants were killed. I think, if we're being honest, as long as Caleb was alive and doing what he's supposed to do, the Lord was with Caleb. and he's with the tribe of Judah, but some of the tribe weren't following the Lord faithfully. You have to understand, there's a comparison between your one-on-one with God and then a nation's one-on-one with God. Does that make sense? Let me put it this way. If all of us serve God faithfully the rest of our days, God can bless us individually in our lives. What effect does that have on the country? Anybody? What effect does that have on the country? If just the folks in this room serve God faithfully the rest of our lives, what effect, if any, does that have on the country? You see the point I'm getting at? There's a difference between how God deals with a nation versus how God deals with an individual. God can bless individuals throughout persecution. In fact, during the tribulation period, there's going to be some that get saved and the Lord's going to be with them. It's going to be a horrible time, but the Lord's going to be with them. But nations turn their back on God and they have to go through this vicious cycle. I was going to share this with you earlier. I'll just go ahead and share it now. You're going to see a pattern as we study through the Judges. You're going to see a pattern. You're going to see that the people will have rest and they'll be doing good. And then there will be an apostasy. Y'all know what apostasy is? It's when people turn their back on God. Then there will be oppression. In every case where there's apostasy, you'll see oppression. Then you'll see distress, and you'll see these people cry out to God. Oh, Lord God, forgive us our sin. Restore us back. And He'll send a deliverer, and things will begin to get better. They'll have deliverance, and then they'll have rest for a while. And then what happens? Every time the Lord blesses the land and gives it rest from its enemies, they move back toward apostasy. Now you look at America, and you tell me they're not in this cycle. When God created this nation, it was founded on good Christian principles. People loved the Lord. People followed the Lord. As long as that was the case, He blessed His country. It doesn't mean there hasn't been trials and tribulations along the way. We've had wars. We've had oppression. We've been through this same cycle of apostasy. There's been 3 great awakenings I know of across America since the 1700s. But we fall into this same cycle of apostasy, oppression, distress, and deliverance. Now, the 2 things I want to show you tonight are on the national level and on the individual level. Apostasy, oppression, distress, deliverance. From a nation's standpoint, this country is in a period of apostasy. What comes next, according to my Bible, would be oppression. Under that oppression, eventually, hopefully, there will be distress and they'll cry out. And I don't know if God would save this nation at this point or not, but He can. But even if He doesn't save the nation, deliverance is always available to individuals. So again, there's 2 ways to look at it. There's the nation and then there's you. There's you and me. As Christians, sometimes we fall away. We enter into periods of apostasy. In our Christian walk, every one of us sometimes gets away from God. For brief periods or for long periods, we do it. We fall away. And then there's typically some kind of oppression, something we go through to remind us of our need to stay in close contact with our God. And then there will be a distress signal. Y'all know what a distress signal is. There will be a period where, during oppression, when we cry out to God. I've seen this in individuals who have physical things going on. They'll cry out in distress and the Lord will get them through it. This goes on throughout this chapter, so let me just show you a couple other examples. Verse 21, the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites that inhabited Jerusalem, but the Jebusites dwell with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem unto this day. The point, didn't do what God told them to do. Now they have a thorn in their side. Verse 22, and the house of Joseph, they also went up against Bethel, and the Lord was with them. See, it's not just Judah. Here's the house of Joseph, which is Ephraim and Manasseh. And the Lord's with them. Verse 23, and the house of Joseph sent to describe Bethel. Now the name of the city was Luz at the time. And the spies saw a man come forth out of the city, and they said unto him, show us, we pray thee, entrance into the city, we will show thee mercy. Now is that what the Lord told them to do? Here they are making league with somebody again. They're not told to do that. They're saying, hey, if you'll show us entrance into the city where we can whip these people, we'll show you mercy. It's not what they were told to do. Verse 25, and when he showed them the entrance into the city, they smote the city with the edge of the sword, but they let go the man and all his family. And the man went into the land of the Hittites, and built a city, and called the name thereof Luz, which is the name thereof unto this day. So, just to remind you, the Lord was with Judah. Judah didn't follow the directions, and then they failed to get the people out of the valley. The tribes of Joseph, the Lord's with them, and everything was going their way. And then they enter into this agreement with this man to try to whip this city, and they make a compromise here that God didn't tell them to make, and now they've got a Hittite city there in their midst. Verse 27, neither did Manasseh drive out the inhabitants of Bethshean and her towns, nor Taanach and her towns, nor the inhabitants of Dor and her towns, nor the inhabitants of Ibleam and her towns, nor the inhabitants of Megiddo and her towns. That's a valley, by the way, Megiddo Valley. And her towns, but the Canaanites would dwell in that land. And it came to pass when Israel was strong that they put Canaanites to tribute and did not utterly drive them out. Are you seeing the pattern? They're not doing what they were told to do. The land is yours. Let me tell you how this applies to you and me. Because you're going to see this example for the rest of the chapter, and it's going to sound redundant. You're going to say, well, Chad, you're saying the same thing over and over and over. Yes, I am, and here's why. Because if you're not careful as a Christian, you will continue in that same pattern. Have you ever found yourself in a cycle that you couldn't break? Anybody? I'll tell you, I had one. Oatmeal cream pies. Y'all are laughing, but I'm 100% serious. I would see a box of oatmeal cream pies in the store. And oh, how I would long for that box. And then I'd buy the box and I'd think, I'm going to be good. I'm just going to have one of them a day. One of them a day won't hurt me. You ever seen how many calories are in them things? They're like 450 in one cookie. I mean, it's like a bunch, okay? If you've got a 2,000 calorie diet, you can eat maybe 3-4 of them cookies and a glass of milk, and you've gone over your 2,000. Now, can you live on 3 or 4 of them cookies a day? No. Because you eat one, oh, it's so good, I got to have another. I'd look up, half the box would be gone. And then I wondered, why I was 220 pounds. And I'd tell myself, oh, I'm going to quit. I ain't going to do it again. And what would happen? Next time I'm in the store, oh, there's some oatmeal cream pies again. Oh, I got to have them. Oh, I just love them. They're so good. Well, let me tell you, sin is the same way. Sin feels good. If it didn't, nobody would do it. Here's the problem. Sin will always take you further than you meant to go. It'll always keep you longer than you wanted to stay, and it will always cost you more than you wanted to pay. I'm going to say that again. Sin will always take you further than you wanted to go. It will always keep you longer than you wanted to stay, and it will always cost you more than you wanted to pay. It may feel good for the moment, but it always hurts. And the silly thing is, it's hard to break. It's just so hard to break that cycle, and we can't do it. The number one thing we've got to do as Christians, the number one thing is we've got to surrender. You've got to come to that point where you say, okay, Lord, your will, not mine. Your will, not mine, and mean it. And it's a daily thing. Did you know I can do that 6 days out of the week, and there'll still be that 7th day where I want to do things my way. In order to be consistent, you've got to surrender. Number 2, you've got to communicate with Him. You've got to talk to Him. A lot of people that are Christians only pray when they really need something or when they bless their food, and some don't even do it then. You've got to have an open dialogue with God all the time. You've got to listen to Him. Let me tell you what Israel had that I wish America had. 100% true. When I vote in this country, I'm always asked to lean one way or the other. You know what I'd really like to have in this country? And we won't have it, but I'd really like to have it. I would love it so much. I would like to have a theocracy. Who knows what a theocracy is? A theocracy is where God is in charge and you just do what He says. No king, no queen, no president. You just follow what the Lord has to say. Did you know Israel had that for a little while? Through the period of Moses. Moses may have been the leader, but God was the one running the country. God was king. Moses was just their a spokesman, so to speak. Spokesman for the Lord. And then they had Joshua to lead them. But overall, God was in control. What God's will was is what mattered. After Joshua, you have this whole period of the judges into the time of Samuel, and you have a theocracy. And if people would just do what God wanted and follow what He says, everything goes your way. He made all these promises and He keeps His promises. But what did Israel do? We reject God, we want a king. We reject the leaders you sent, we want a king. And here we are, America, we want a president. I tell you, the best thing that could happen to America, be get rid of all that and just follow what the Word of God says. That'd be the best thing. Anyhow, they had it, we don't, but it was a wonderful thing. It's called a theocracy, and it's a wonderful thing. So, I'll share with you a few more examples here. I showed you verse 27 where Manasseh didn't run those people out. Verse 28, it came to pass when Israel was strong that they put the Canaanites to tribute and did not utterly drive them out. That's a mistake. When God strengthens you to do His will, and then you do what you want to do instead. They put them to tribute and they didn't drive them out, and now you got to deal with them. Verse 29. Neither did Ephraim. Now these are the sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh. But they didn't drive out the Canaanites that dwelt in Gezer, but the Canaanites dwelt in Gezer among them. Neither did Zebulun. These are all tribes, if you're wondering. Just another tribe of Israel. They didn't drive out the inhabitants of Kitron, nor the inhabitants of Nahalol. But the Canaanites dwelt among them and became tributaries. Are you seeing the pattern? I've made it clear, but I'm going to finish reading it. Neither did Asher drive out the inhabitants of Akko, nor the inhabitants of Zidon, nor of Alab, nor of... I'm not going to read all these. You get the point. They didn't drive them out. Verse 32. But they dwelt among the Canaanites, inhabitants of the land, for they did not drive them out. Continual pattern. Verse 33, neither did Naphtali. There's another tribe. They didn't drive them out. Nor did basically the Canaanites continue to inhabit the land. Verse 34. And the Amorites forced the children of Dan into the mountain, for they would not suffer them to come down to the valley. I want you to catch this. The tribe of Dan was the northernmost tribe. If you look at Israel on a map, as far north as you go, Dan was the northernmost tribe. And they were apparently so out of the will of God that they're driven into a mountain and not allowed to come down into the valley. You're talking about a people who God wanted to help, but they wouldn't do it His way. But the Amorites would dwell in Mount Heres and Ahalan in Shaalbim, yet the hand of the house of Joseph prevailed, so that they became tributaries. And the coast of the Amorites was from going up to Akrabim, from the rock and upward. So you read all of chapter 1, and here's what you see. And I know some of this doesn't make any difference to you, but I want you to see it. Time after time after time after time, you see the opportunity for success, but then you see failure. Let me tell you, Christian, that's the life that we live in Christ now. We do really well. We see the hand of God in our lives. And we're walking with Him. When we're listening to Him, we're doing the things He called us to do, and things are going our way. Praise God. And then we get off. And we forget to course correct. And then the next thing you know, we're suffering through something we don't have to suffer through. We're going through distress. And then we need to be delivered. You know, we can avoid all of that by learning from the pattern given us. The reason God gave us this story is not to bore you to death or put you to sleep. It's to remind you not to fall into this same cycle. Because if you're not careful, you will. We all will. If it's not a daily, and I mean a daily walk with the Lord, if it's not a daily attempt to try to keep it straight, we'll mess it up. I'm going to tell you from my own experience. And this is not the best example I can come up with. The Lord has brought me through a lot of things. But just for something secular that's easy to see. I finally broke the cycle of the oatmeal cream pies. Can y'all tell? I've lost 40 pounds. I was at 220, I'm down to 180. That's 40 pounds by anybody's math, okay? Gave up those dirty, rotten cookies. Now I can fall off the wagon tomorrow and eat a box of them. And I'll be right back where I was, headed the wrong way. Now, if the Lord will help you through something as simple as a cookie fetish, let me tell you, that's so minor compared to what He can do. If we'll just surrender to His will, communicate with Him, and avoid this vicious cycle of apostasy and oppression, distress, and then the need for deliverance. Look, the Lord gets, I believe He enjoys delivering us through things. But I think He would enjoy it more if we didn't fall into the ditch to start with. Right? I don't know about you, but I want to make a new commitment. I want to rededicate my life to the Lord, and I want to promise Him that from now on, I want to make extra effort to seek Him out about every little thing. Because unfortunately, we forget to. We get wrapped up in life and we forget to include Him. Something as simple as losing my wallet the other day. I lost my wallet. I couldn't find my wallet. I thought, oh goodness, there's money in there too. Most of the time there's not, but there was money in it. And I lost it. I thought, oh goodness, where's my wallet? And I had the presence of mind to just say, Lord, please help me find it. I can't afford to be losing that. I don't have a lot of money, okay? Can't afford to be losing that. And you know what? Believe it or not, He led me right to it. It sounds like a simple thing, but it is a simple thing. If you'll include Him in the little things, He'll help you in the little things. If you'll include Him in the big things, He'll help you in the big things. When the battle looks like it's just impossible, that's when He loves to show up. We're going to look at this as we study through the Judges, and you're going to see this cycle. But what I'd like you to do is just learn not to follow it. Learn not to fall into it. I'll say this and I'm through. My dad was not the best example in the world. I mean, I loved him, but he wasn't the best example in the world. He liked to teach from the point of view, do as I say, not as I do. Anybody else ever have that parent? I mean, it was okay for him to do things, but I had to do what he said, not follow after that. Let me just tell you, that don't work. That don't work. God gave us a whole book full of examples so that we wouldn't have to suffer like they do. America wouldn't be suffering now if they would follow the example given in Scripture. And as individuals, you don't have, look, you're going to suffer sometimes. And it's a privilege to suffer for Christ's sake. But I would rather suffer for following Him closely, suffer for serving Him faithfully, suffer like Paul and Peter, James and John did, versus suffering because I'm an idiot. You see what I'm saying? If I get out here and get drunk and wreck my truck, I'm going to suffer for that decision. Okay? If I get out here and serve Jesus with all my heart, I'm going to suffer for that decision. I'm going to suffer either way. Which way would you rather have it happen? I'd much rather suffer for His sake. And I'd much rather learn from the examples He's given us and follow Him and try to draw closer to Him. Just keep this thought in mind. The Lord's brother, James, said, if you draw nigh unto God, He'll draw nigh unto you. Very simply put, if you'll reach out and try to draw closer to Him, He'll reach out and draw closer to you. I love the story of Enoch. I love the story of Enoch. Because Enoch walked with God, and God took him home. And listen, I want to walk with God because someday He's going to take me home. Someday He's going to take you home. And it's going to be very similar to the way He took Enoch. Y'all knew that, right? It's going to happen the same way. He's going to take us up. I don't know about you, but that's something to be excited about. Let's stand there, please.